Welcome to Andor, the podcast where every week we'll analyze and scrutinize the Star Wars series Andor 7 minutes at a time. My name is Rusteen Honardoost.
And I'm Alex Wallenut.
We have friends everywhere, and today there are two of them from Casty For Me. 4 friends on the show. From Casty For Me, we have Jake, Serwin, and Ian Rhine. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Oh, so excited to be
Star
here.
Wars, hello.
Well, this guy loves Star Wars.
He's the biggest Star Wars fan of all time.
Yeah.
Well,
God.
as the biggest Star Wars fan of all time, can you tell us what is your guys' connection with Star Wars, and how did you find Andor?
Ian, do you want to go first, or should I? I'm Jake. I'm the Jake one.
I'm Ian, and I'm happy to go first. I was a Star Wars kid. I would say like level 2 or 3 Star Wars kid.
Yeah, so you've seen the video of him with his broomstick.
Had a beautiful garage, very clean.
Yeah.
I grew up watching all the movies. I have 5 brothers, so it was kind of a collective experience, right? So, you know, the original trilogy, the prequels. We were big Jedi Knight fans in our household, so we played a lot of Jedi Knight 2. But I say level 2 or 3 because we weren't a Star Wars book family. So I think that's a sort of like the extended universe stuff is maybe the limit for me. But I would say, you know, seen every Star Wars film 5 to 10 times in my life. And
have you seen Solo and Rise of Skywalker 5 to 10 times?
No, you're right. Sorry, I should say the ones that I care about.
Right.
And yeah, when did I taper off? Maybe post season 2 of The Mandalorian or something is where I sort of looked at myself in the mirror and said,
A lot of people closed the book about Boba Fett and did not go further. Yeah.
It's gathering dust on their shelf.
Yeah,
slammed it shut.
Yeah. And Andor, I came to, Jake and I have a mutual friend, Forrest, who's been on our show. And he was aware of my experience in organizing and interested in leftism and being a Star Wars nerd. So he told me, like, you know, probably within days of the first episode coming out, like, you got to watch this show. This is made for you. So I was in pretty early, mid first season, and I'm a freak for it, as I told you guys in an email.
Yeah.
There's no way to
Andor
introduce
head.
Andor without being annoying. It's really impossible to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's which is Jake's well aware of. I've been pushing it on him for several years. So Jake, what's your background?
Well, I mean, Ian and I are about the same age. I think we're all roughly between 30 and 35, I would guess. Is that roughly
I'm
about
36, but I'll take 35.
All right, you can be in the club.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I was in the precise, like, cohort to be just inundated with Star Wars. Like, some of my first movie-going memories are, like, the special editions, and I fell asleep in the theater seeing A New Hope because it was, like, a 8 p.m. showing. And then super pumped for Phantom Menace. The little boy's name was also Jake, which was big for me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as I was getting older, the movies were getting a little gnarlier, you know, like they share a bed in Attack of the Clones, I think. And I have a dork dad also, so like he was showing us this stuff early and he was big into it and knew some of the guys' names. And then you know, now I was thinking about it, and I'm like culturally Jewish, and I think I'm also kind of culturally Star Wars. Like, I like knowing the little. I've never seen Spaceballs, actually, but that's a really good point. I think I can't speak to the quality. Most of it is dog shit. Most of it is really bad, like, narratively. But I am fascinated by every little. I still want to know all of the little guys' names and, like, the planets and stuff, and I find myself, like, you know, I know about Dathomir. I don't know why. I'm not gonna, and then
it's gonna rattle around in your brain until you die, but you know what Dathomir is.
And then I watched The Mandalorian, and I even watched the Book of Boba Fett. Actually, I think largely because my girlfriend loves that little Goku, that little guy.
Goku?
Yeah,
Son Goku.
You know the green guy.
We call him Goku on our show. But that got increasingly bad, and I'm generally not a TV guy. So by the time Andor rolled around, obviously I was hearing from Ian and from everybody else, it's really good. It's about organizing. It's like actually taking politics seriously. I remember seeing like the people that I respect on the computer were all saying, "I love Andor. I'm gonna kiss Andor." And I don't know.
We all want to kiss Andor.
I just didn't get around to it.
That was a big part of it for me too. I should have mentioned,
And I kept meaning to. And in fact, I even watched the first episode like a year ago, and it just like didn't hook me. The first episode.
Sure.
That's not exclusive to you. Same thing happened to me. I did not get it after the first couple of episodes.
It's a lousy first episode, I think. And then you guys very kindly invited us on the show, and I thought this is a good chance for me to finally watch it. And I watched the first episode again a couple weeks ago, and then I kind of fell off for a bit.
Needed more time off. Okay.
So I think I've now seen the first episode 3 times.
Okay.
Oh, this guy
But
loves Andor.
I have now, I just like devoured the first season in the last like week and a half. And
Okay.
I'm excited to watch the second season, although I've convinced my girlfriend to catch up on season 1 so that we can watch the second one together.
Cool.
And I'm excited to see more about my friend Christian Andrews and all his space adventures that he gets up to.
And when you say devoured, I assume that means you liked it, or
No, I like it.
okay.
Yeah, I'm big into it. And I'm thrilled to be here.
In regards to your previous comment, in honor of the late great Mark Maron, my comment shot he's dead by the time I record this. We put this out.
Could be.
Joe Rogan's going to kill him.
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sport.
Saint Peter unlocked the gates for him.
Oh.
you know?
Oh, very good.
I don't know if he's not allowed to go up there.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
That's different.
Oh, right. Jewish, yeah.
Yeah. I can't. I'm like, can I do a Maron? I can't do a Maron.
No, me neither.
Who were your glup shittos? Is the question.
It's a great question. It's a terrific question. I mean, I love all of the pod racers. I love Ben Quadinaros, although he's become a little bit too much of a meme.
Yeah, he's very memed by now.
But I didn't know that when I fell in love with him. I rewatched the Star Wars movies, the real ones, the George ones, with my girlfriend like 5 years ago with a laser pointer in my hand, literally, and pausing and was like, "Hey, this guy's this, and this guy's this, and this guy's this."
I'm sure she loved that.
She did actually kind of like it.
That's great.
I think. And she also just fell in love with Ben Quadinaros. I don't think she remembers his last name. She just says, Ben! She loves Ben.
That's the bigger Ben than Obi-Wan Kenobi to her.
Oh, definitely.
Like when
Or
you
Ben
say
Solo.
Ben from Star Wars, she thinks
Yeah.
Ben Quadinaros.
Yeah. And Odie Mandrell and
Mhm.
Sebulba, obviously. You've got the other guys whose names I don't remember. Fode and Bede, of course. Who could forget?
Oh, yeah.
Do we think the new pod racer game is going to have old Ben Quadinaros?
Unfortunately, it only has some pod racing in it, and then other people just drive normal speeders. Can you believe that?
They
What
just
the
have
fuck?
cars. They just
I
got normal
know.
cars. That's
Well,
cool.
Did you guys ever play Galactic Battlegrounds? The Age of Empires 2, the official Age of Empires 2 reskin that was all Star Wars stuff?
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
play
I
that.
did play that. I did.
Yeah, did you did you put in the cheat code where you could just get a Shelby Mustang and it would just like twitch
Uh-huh.
and a cannonball would come out of it? Like they didn't even animate it like firing a projectile, but it would just go like, "Meh," and then
Mhm.
like cannonballs would come out of it. There was also Simon the Killer Ewok who you could
Oh,
unlock with
yeah,
cheat
yeah.
codes. Yeah.
That was great.
So-
I mostly played Age of Mythology, and there was a cheat code in that where you could get a fighting Canadian bear, and he wore a Canadian flag as a cape.
This
That's
does
cool.
remind me of a story of my freshman year of college. Someone on my floor found somebody on Craigslist selling a Nintendo 64 copy of Star Wars Episode Racer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
And they're like, okay, we're going to meet in Harvard Square and we'll exchange money for the game. And then he realized that by the time he got there, 1, he didn't give them his number. 2, he did not explain what he looked like. So he like found a piece of paper and just wrote Pod Racer on it and just stood there for like 4 hours with the sign that just says Pod Racer.
And then Ben Quadinaros showed up.
No, one showed up. He just stood there for 4 and they went home and gave up.
Oh, no.
Hey,
I was thinking you're like offering your services of pod racing.
Hey, Alex, where'd you go to college?
Boston University?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I thought you were doing one of those sneaky Harvard
No,
things.
we're across the bridge from Harvard.
Okay.
No, we would
You
never.
almost got me.
We'd never
Damn it.
allow a Harvard grad
Yeah.
on Andorks. That's a guarantee.
Good. Hey, your record is clean. Ian, do you have a glup shitto?
I don't think I have a glup shit as good as that. I do like, just as a film fan, Ponda Baba's line reading is up there as like
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
the kind of thing that like on my deathbed somebody could, sort of like rouse me by having that exact exchange, and I would
Right.
know what to say even if I had forgotten their name or something.
Mhm.
But beyond that, I don't think so. I guess
Ponda Baba's a very
I'm
good
a-
answer.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah,
OG Glup Shitto for sure. Like,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think he brings
Well-
the sort of dirty 70s energy to Star Wars, which
Mhm.
is sometimes lacking, not in Andor.
I hate to contradict, but I feel like the OG glup shitto would be calling him Walrus Man. Because wasn't his
Yeah,
name
yeah.
Walrus Man for like 20 years? And then
yeah, exactly.
That's
Or just guy with balls on his face would also be accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Balchinian from Men in Black, probably
Yeah.
inspired by
yeah,
Ponda
that's a good
Baba.
point.
I feel like Ponda Baba was like, fuck, we ran out of latex. We got to just like, I don't know, just put like the scraps on this
Well,
guy.
that's why there's a guy with the devil mask. It's like, we just
Yeah.
have a devil
Yeah.
mask.
The
in
devil
box.
mask guy is so good. Do you
Yeah.
know his name? Does he have a name?
We could-
He has to have a name.
yeah, they all have names.
Cantina. Let's see. Oh God, it's a hard one. Kardu Sai Malak is Devil
Come on.
Mask guy.
They really knocked it out of the park with that one.
Kardu Sai Malak
I used to sing that prayer at synagogue.
yeah.
Mhm.
He was a Devorian army captain and devoted music aficionado with a massive collection of rare recordings.
Nice.
So
I mean,
he was
where-
like a record
Where was this
collector.
established? He had a modal nodes tattoo in the special edition that you can see for half a second.
That's why I do Pilates to try to pick up Devorians.
My guess is that this probably comes from Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina. Yeah, there's
Okay.
like the book
Okay.
of that, and that's
Yeah.
where all these guys come from. This
See, that's
is the
yeah.
legends.
That's the extended universe stuff I'm talking about, where
Right.
every
Yeah.
single character, like the guy who found the first Kyber crystal, has 8 books dedicated to him.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
They change, so that was his legends backstory, but they changed it in
God.
canon, which is that he was a wily Devorian male who served as a cruel army captain on his homeworld. And he later went into hiding under the alias Labria while on the run from his wicked past life.
Jesus.
They really changed this guy.
Okay.
Imagine if this was your Glup
Yeah.
Shitto and you're like, I love records, he loves records, and then they turned him into a war criminal.
Yeah. That sucks.
Well, speaking of evil war generals, should we hop in?
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Well, I
that
did,
was such a good pivot. Come on.
but we want to talk about Soderbergh.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a reason for ruining your horrible pivot.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Alex. I did this last week too, where
I thought it was a
killed
nice
pivot.
pivot.
It was a great pivot, but I did want to
Unless
hit.
it's going to be more to my advantage to align with Rusteen, in which case I thought it was a bad pivot. I haven't decided yet.
I am the keeper of the spreadsheet, so take with that what you will. But there was a little bit of synchronicity when I first discovered your guys' podcast, because you are covering the films of Stephen Soderbergh on your show.
That's
and
correct.
almost immediately after I discovered your podcast, the news broke that him and Adam Driver were working on a film that would have been called The Hunt for Ben Solo,
That's
which
correct.
was ultimately killed by Lucasfilm. Driver called it one of the coolest fucking scripts I've ever been a part of. And the story goes that they presented the script to Lucasfilm. They loved the idea. They totally understood our angle and why we were doing it. And they took it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, and they said no, quote, they did not see how Ben Solo was alive, and that was that. And so Soderbergh then did go on to add on Blue Sky.
A sequel series that famously brought back the evil villain from the dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds-
They learned their lesson far too late.
Yeah, sounds like Bob Iger needs to download Fortnite.
Mhm.
I have to presume that the pitch explained why he was still alive. It's not like they just ignored that he died. So maybe they just weren't paying attention at the beginning of the pitch and just jumped in halfway
Right.
through.
Well, and this is the same Disney that's bringing back those poor old X-Men for the 90th time. Like,
So we
let let Patrick Stewart relax, Been through enough.
We just got to wait for Adam Driver's hair to go gray, and then maybe they'll decide to do the hunt for Ben Solo then.
I mean, I would kind of like that. His hair is one of the best decisions that they made in the sequel trilogy, I think.
And so I wanted to bring this up to you guys. You're deeply invested into the filmography of Stephen Soderbergh. And so when this news broke, what did you guys think about this?
If you guys also want to sell your podcast a little bit, that's...
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would part with it for $500-$600, honestly. My initial response was this kind of weird mix of honestly what I usually feel with Star Wars, which part of me was thinking that's so cool, and part of me was well, that would inevitably suck, right? Or it would just feel when Soderbergh did Second Unit on the first Hunger Games movie, kind of just to do it, to try it out. It's not like you watch that movie and you suddenly feel like you're in the middle of traffic or Ocean's 12 or something.
Sure.
But I mean, I their collaboration on Logan Lucky is it's one of my favorite more recent Soderbergh films, and I think Driver's really good in it, clearly having fun.
Yeah.
Every year the Game of Thrones joke gets funnier and funnier.
Exactly. And Scott Z. Burns was writing it, who has written some of my favorite Soderbergh movies, The Informant, Contagion, Side Effects. And also he wrote the movie The Report, which is about the CIA torture report. So I would imagine his take on Empire type stuff would be mildly interesting. And then Ian was the one who actually made the observation that, this is why Soderbergh watched 90 Star Wars projects in the last year.
Yeah, this really, it solved the mystery for us because Soderbergh famously publishes his year in review of media right around this time, right around December, January. And I think it was for 2024, he had been watching the prequels. He had been watching Andor, and he and Gilroy are collaborators. So at the time, I just thought he just wanted to watch his buddy's show. That's nice, and he likes interesting new
Michael
media.
Clayton.
Yeah, exactly.
But taking the time to watch The Phantom Menace twice was
exactly.
a real tip-off.
It was the second.
That,
it was
there's
the
something
second
else
Phantom
going on
Menace.
here.
Yeah,
that reminded me when I saw Magic Mike Triple XL. What is it?
XXL.
Double X.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was just I have not seen a movie that is this unsexy about dancing since All That Jazz. And then I looked at his list of, it's movie watched, All That Jazz. Next day, begin production on Magic Mike Double XL. It was just okay, yeah, we're on the same page here, Stevie.
That's funny. Yeah, he also, I feel like those lists are he just put the one for 2025 out, and he watched all of Skeleton Crew as well as tennis basically every day somehow. But I feel like he uses those lists to brag about how quickly he shoots things, because he'll put in begin production on this, and then he watches a cut of the movie 3 weeks later or something. He did it with the Christophers and this 2025 list.
He lists it as having watched, which is that's, we respect our guy, but it is fun.
So I mean, I'm fascinated. I would love to know what this was. I want to know how was he going to shoot it? Was he going to try to because he loves Richard Lester. He loves films of the 70s. If you look at things like The Limey, if you look at the Ocean's movies, he's very interested in older film aesthetics, but then he's also famously the digital guy.
There's the haywire black bag diffusion
Contagion.
Filter style stuff, which
He wanted a $40 million budget movie. It was a very
it was going to be a very modest relative to what Star Wars looks like.
They were gonna be hunting for Ben Solo in Florida to keep costs down,
and also hunting orchids.
Yeah,
but
place to do it.
Like you're saying, a lot of his films now are really small scale, and he's shooting them so quickly and editing them while he's shooting them and having the movie done before the cast wrap party even starts. And so I think for me, as much as I want a great Star Wars film, what made it exciting for me as a big Soderbergh fan is just like, what if he makes a movie where he has to take longer than 3 weeks to make it? You know, like he's spent so long he spent the last like 10 years now saying how quickly, how cheaply, how small a crew do I need to like make a movie? And so the idea of him having to actually like slow down and like take that artificial weight that he's put on himself off and like make like an honest to God blockbuster again is the thing that makes me the most sad that this film hasn't actually happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think my dream version of it.
Maybe the new leadership will give it the green light now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not holding out hope for that. But I would say, I don't know if you guys have seen Soderbergh's Che, a film that he famously hated shooting and had an absolutely miserable time, basically with every aspect of the production. But that would be my dream version of Hunt for Ben Solo, because that is like what you're describing, this sort of attention to detail, this like epic told over the course of 5 hours, basically, and considering interactions between people, what are they like as individuals, how do they fit into this broader sort of like social milieu. That would be, it feels like that would be capitalizing on Adam Driver, but that seems unlikely. I don't know.
I finally watched
version.
Che for the first time over the weekend and very much enjoyed them. Took my phone out, I'm like, what's going on in the news? And saw the news about Venezuela.
Yeah.
It's the most surreal moment in a while. Just this is depressing.
If Hunt for Ben Solo was his Che, I would have loved to see what weird fucked up Star Wars alcohol he discovers and then turns into his luxury brand.
He's going to become the U.S. importer of Revnog.
Of Mednog.
Yeah. Rusteen is referring, of course, to Singani 63, Soderbergh's imported Bolivian brandy. The man goes to Bolivia to make a movie about Che, and he's like, you know what I should do is extract some traditional folk juice from Bolivia, and it's just like it's like the main brand of Singani in Bolivia that they just changed the label to sell it in the U.S.
Yeah,
it's honestly really good.
It is actually very good. Have you, Jake? You also live in L.A. Have you ever been to Fountain Liquor in East Hollywood? It's a little liquor store that he's a regular at. And so
he is.
Yeah, so they actually do a lot of promotions with him. They've got a big cutout of Soderbergh dressed up like Sergeant Pepper. And then they have like a big thing on the wall.
I gotta head over there. Is that the one with the Betty Davis mural on the?
I think so. It's right next to El Zarape Taqueria. Which is great also.
Okay, I will be checking this out. For some reason he wears the Sergeant Pepper thing when he promotes Singani. I don't know why.
He probably bought it and gets to write it off as a business expense if he does it that way. They did a promo where if you bought 2 bottles of Singani, you got a rare like Polaroid like costume photo from like his archive. So I have a photo of Bernie Mac from the set of Ocean's 11 thanks to my 2 bottles of Singani.
You have a relic. You have something special.
And I do want to also shout out that, on the topic of like Soderbergh working in an established IP, him and like Tony Gilroy were apparently supposed to make a James Bond together, was a thing that was talked about somewhat recently.
He was approached to do Bond, I think, twice, and this is kind of where the idea for Haywire came from, in part. He wanted to do a spy thing, and then Black Bag obviously has some Bond as well as some like Le Carré influence to it. I'm very curious. I mean, I remember when the news broke, a lot of people. I read some people saying, this would be. I'm so glad Soderbergh didn't get bogged down in doing a Star Wars movie for 3 years. Which, like, first of all, if there's any director who you don't have to worry about either his career getting bogged down or like the guy's already made like 40 movies.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Barry Jenkins doing Lion King 2 for 5 years.
Derailing him. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Soderbergh is very close to inventing the instant VHS from Spaceballs, where like the movie's already done before we're even done shooting. Basically,
yeah. And so that confused me, but I do see it as like, the guy loves to experiment. He made a movie that was like a choose your own adventure in Mosaic that kind of nobody interacted with, and then when the Black Mirror one did it. Everyone liked that for some reason.
Mhm.
He did, he was one of the first all digital movies with Full Frontal. He did the day and date thing with Bubble. So, and then he goes and works on Hunger Games. So it makes sense to me that he would want to just like, what's it like to make a Star Wars movie? And I think Bob Iger is a world historic coward and should have the relationship between his head and neck re-examined. It should be looked at by outside experts.
Luckily, we'll be able to use the magic of Sora to visualize all kinds of things in the future.
I wish freaking Sora from Kingdom Hearts would whack Bob Iger with the damn Keyblade.
There's like a Sora costume at Disneyland that they only bring out like every 2 years, like for
Right,
the real nerd night.
Yeah. Weeb night at Disneyland.
I mean, 2026, that's just everybody now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you guys, your podcast sort of has a very similar premise to ours of like looking at this work through a leftist way. And can you talk about like Clint Eastwood, right wing, Paul Schrader, God knows what?
Yeah.
He is the dialectic. He is all things at the same time.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I just remember the fucking AI.
Look, we got out of the Schrader business while the getting was good.
Yeah. Weeks before the stock dropped. Yeah.
Good timing.
We managed to interview him on the show literally like, I don't know, 2 months before that was a really bad idea. And we don't really talk about him too much anymore. He is using large language models to generate images of himself like holding the baby Christ or something. I don't remember what he did recently.
I was thinking of the one with him hanging out with Mishima.
Yeah, there's one of him hanging out with Mishima.
In front of an airport for some reason in Minnesota?
Maybe he's taking him to Grand Rapids to see where he grew up. But we I think if you're a fan of this show, you'll probably get something out of ours. We look at these cultural products from like a leftist perspective. What can they tell us about the culture and the time in which they were made? What can they tell us about now? How can we use this as an excuse to just talk about something we want to talk about that's related to the film? Obviously, like Che was a slam dunk example, but when we were talking about Clint Eastwood, we would talk about Every Which Way But Loose and then discuss like the rights of primates and how the San Fernando Valley used to be full of cowboys. So it's a fun way to fruitful avenues for discussion, and it's I guess imagine this show if both Rusteen and Alex hit their heads really hard.
Yeah.
Having
listened to your show, I disagree with that description.
It's the opposite.
I was fishing and I caught a big one.
So I was gonna say so why Soderbergh? Because like he's sort of like a pivot from I would not think of him as a very political director. Like I'm curious what you guys.
Well, that's kind of part of our conceit is that we have tried to pick people who are politically messy because we think it's a little bit more generative in terms of conversation, right? If it's easy to pick somebody who is either explicitly on the left or explicitly conservative. But even Clint Eastwood is libertarian and, sometimes thinks of himself as kind of like a socially progressive guy, sometimes doesn't really seem to think about politics that much, sometimes seems to make very explicitly political movies. So I think part of our attraction to Soderbergh was to find another person like this who had maybe been focused on the non-political aspects of film, but in doing so, touched on a lot of things that are of interest to us and I think of interest to people around the turn of the 21st century.
And it's also a major concern is that we like most of the Soderbergh movies and we do have to watch them and talk about them. So
that helps. We have a similar goal with Andor as far as it is a show we like and wanted to just keep talking about forever. But it is also similarly, I think a lot of people on the left watch Andor and think like this is a show for us specifically. But I just listened to an interview that Tony Gilroy did with Reason.com's podcast where they talked about how there are a lot of fans of Andor in the Reason.com offices. And so investigating the ways in which like something like this can be politically messy as far as like we read it as clearly being on the left sometimes, but clearly other people can read it their own way. And trying to find the places where that happens is a part of our goal with the show.
It's also funny when Soderbergh was like quasi kicked out of the Writers Guild for him to be the
yeah.
Well, yeah, he kicked himself out for the worst possible reasons, which is he basically wanted to sever himself from having to be involved like financially, but didn't remove himself officially.
Right, and his relationship to unions is always weird. And then he makes a Che movie, but like he's not like in support of the Cuban liberation as much as he's like, this guy's really interesting, which is one of the things that is so fascinating about him, is trying to figure out, like, well, what actually animates you? What is your position on this? His movies tend to focus on there's a lot of sort of con artists in there. There's a lot of a little guy against a big guy.
Yeah.
You know, you look at Aaron Brockovich, you look at Ocean's 11, you look at Che, you look at Logan Lucky, Magic Mike, whatever. But then within that, there is a kind of ambivalence about like organizing, about collective action, about like a actual sort of material like critique of the world, like as directly as in something like Andor. So he's messy, and we like that, and we're messy boys, and we like to get messy and roll around with each other.
Well,
So listen to the show.
I want to bring out I brought up the list of FICOR, which is the financial core, which is the which is one of the funniest things I've ever read on a union website.
Yeah, it's so bitchy. I love it.
Just
It's like
all of
the
losers
setup of
that
like,
we hate. Yeah.
But the thing over the years, members have chosen not to follow our rules, and we designate this as financial core. And then you go like, now lots of members have come to us with rational reasons of why they should be re-added or why they should be reconsidered. And it just goes, FICOR is forever. And then just lists everybody. But yeah,
so Soderbergh's on there, Clooney's on there.
Yeah.
I know Coppola's on there.
I got Sly Stallone, Clooney,
of course.
Robert Rodriguez, Bob Gates, Francis Ford Coppola, and George Lucas, who is the first one on the loop. Yeah.
Yeah, Big George.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's what I love about Star Wars, and what I think, like, increasingly as more people get involved, what makes it less interesting to me is that it starts as this, like, very strange boy from Modesto trying to articulate how mad he is about the Vietnam War through Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
And Hidden Fortress. And
yeah. And so I feel like Andor, to me, gets back to, like, this is a canvas onto which I can express my frustration with the injustices of the world, instead of this is how I can tell, like, warmed over Western stories about like Lone Wolf and Cub, except that the stroller is hovering.
Yeah, like Andor feels very much in conversation with like biopics like Che, in the sense that like those very much hold up that like great man myth of history. And in Andor, yes, he's the title character, but he's just like one person in this entire rebellion. And the fact that he makes it to like play such a pivotal role in Rogue One and like the history of the galaxy almost feels like an accident by the end of the show. And so that's part of why I love this show so much.
Yeah, although I will say, I mean, Che Part 2, something we enjoyed discussing, is that it gets into things like sectarianism and what do you do when you're trying to build a movement in Bolivia, and the official party is on one line, and Che has his own vision that's maybe not historically or circumstantially appropriate. And to me, that is, I mean, that's sort of some of the Nemec discussion I assume we'll get into today, right? Is this like question of how do you decide what the right path is?
Right.
I think that's a pretty good segue to hop in.
Absolutely. I think with that, we can jump into our very first 7 minutes of season 1, episode 6, The Eye. Previously on Andor, the crew on Aldhani fought their nerves as they prepared to rob an Imperial garrison for millions of credits, and we return to find them early in the morning with this really quiet, emotional scene between Cassian and Nemec over a hot cup of caf, in which Nemec confesses to being unable to sleep because he's nervous about their mission, and he wonders why his faith in the cause isn't enough to calm his nerves. He asks, I believe in something, so why am I unsettled? While Cassian has nothing and sleeps like a stone. And this is a character who's like our dreamer of the show. And so him thinking that like I have clarity of purpose, shouldn't I like not be afraid, is like a really evocative place to like begin this thrilling heist episode with.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a guy that you run into in any kind of leftist space, or many such guys. They're often wearing a kind of like shitty Fidel looking hat and like a t-shirt with a slogan on it, and they are very nice and they want to tell you about something they wrote. But Nemec, it was immediately identifiable to me and sort of lent the show. It suggested to me that Gilroy has been to some meetings. Gilroy knows what he's talking about. And the performance, I think, is terrific. This guy is just like so immediately like sympathetic and clearly struggling with stuff and like wants so badly to be good. He wants to do the right thing and think the right thing, which is, you know, that's my experience all the time, except that I don't have the attention span to write when I'm up late. I'll just like look at my phone.
Well, if they were lived in 2026, Nemec would have recorded a podcast.
He basically does.
Yeah,
because
he
he
does,
says he's
yeah.
writing, but it is actually like an audiobook.
Yeah.
Basically. And yeah, Nemec admits to writing when he can't sleep, which, you know, explains how he's written so much of his manifesto already. And this time he says he's written about Clem, or, quote, the role of galactic mercenaries in the galactic struggle for freedom, which is a very niche topic for a revolutionary
Do you
text.
think he writes on paper or flimsoplast?
I mean, we know he writes on flimsoplast because they don't have paper.
Just for context, paper is a very rare object in the Star Wars universe, but most people use flimsoplast, which is just paper.
Okay. I mean, I think, you know, it speaks to something about this character that like everyone's mad when Andor shows up as a new guy in the heist crew, and by this point they all know he's a mercenary, right? That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they've just found out. Yeah.
And I like that he's like, well, how do I work through my feelings? Let me try to figure out why this is like ethically just.
Yeah.
I mean, you say that this is like a guy in a DSA meeting now or something, but it's also like Lenin, right? Or Mao pre-revolution. These are
Lenin alarm has gone off.
These are I mean, this is like publishing What Is to Be Done or Materialism and Imperial Criticism or something, and trying to figure out these things that they kind of have a grasp on. I mean, I would say like early Lenin writing is not my favorite of his works, but he's clearly wrestling with something. And I think in direct relation to Andor, his brother has been executed by the state, and he has personal resentment, and he has experience sort of like trying to organize. And he is also working through these ideas, right, and trying to articulate them in a way that speaks to the moment, but is also maybe laying groundwork for future moments or future movements. This sort of a sense of like, we want to have this on record in case it might serve somebody someday. Sometimes I would say Lenin tends towards the I'm very confident about what I'm talking about side of things, which is a little bit troubling sometimes. But I mean, I think for me, what is charming is that like so much of Andor, this question about, well, what should be permitted or what should be encouraged in certain stages of the revolution. I mean, these aren't abstract questions, right? This is, I was so glad that you directed me in our preparation for the show to your episode with John Danforth Appel. And he talks in his episode about Fanon and Wretched of the Earth. And in Wretched of the Earth, in the second chapter, a huge piece of it is about what should the time before colonial resistance or revolution look like, and questions of, is it about vanguardism? Is it about a single party of the intelligentsia leading the people? Or does that lead us into a situation where after the revolution, we're not prepared for organizing? The people who have just won the revolution don't know what they were fighting for. And that's not an abstract question, right? I mean, that's on our show very early on, we did an episode about Grenada with a wonderful academic, and she talked a lot about Grenada in the aftermath of their independence movement, struggling with the same things, right? Their leader, Maurice Bishop, ultimately got into conflict with some of the same people who put him into power. And so this is or we could look at Rojava or something today where they're trying to figure out, what is okay to do in the course of making some of this stuff happen. And I don't know. I'm happy to see it on screen.
Shout out to Dr. Lori Lambert,
Yes.
Canadian literature expert, and our guest on that episode. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I love about the show, and I actually told you guys all about this show. I watched it in 2022, and I was like, you guys gotta listen to this show. You gotta watch the show. You're gonna make a podcast. I love it. I found it first. I actually wrote on the show. One of the things I love about it is how much it's about process, and it's about like I was talking to Ian about this earlier. It's about like revolutionary struggle as like a relay where the baton is the thing that's important to move forward, and sometimes the guy who was carrying it just now is gonna be gone forever. He's gonna he can't swim. Whoops. See you later or whatever. And I assume that you guys do spoilers.
Yeah.
But like, it made a ton of sense to me that Nemec, I keep wanting to call him Mouse because he looks like Mouse from The Matrix. He's got the hat.
Yeah.
Spiritually similar, yeah.
Who's also, isn't that Ilan Sleazebagano?
He sure is, yeah.
Okay, Death Sticks, yeah. See, I've seen Star Wars. But it makes sense that this guy dies like a pretty ignoble death. He just gets like smushed by accident, crushed by the weight of capital, but then also just literally like smushed in by accident. And like some people are gonna die, and but we know at the end sort of that there's a happy ending, and then there also isn't, because somehow Palpatine returns.
Yeah, like Luthen's monologue that he has at the end of episode 10 is very much about his specific struggle, but it is echoed through all of the characters in this show who are living, they don't get to live the comfortable lives that they deserve, and many of them do not live to get to see the sunrise that they're working for, which is what makes the finale of the show work, I think.
And it's like literally foggy. They're literally in this bank, this gorgeous but also like disorienting and threatening bank of fog up there. I think they shot this in Scotland. Yeah.
One little like behind the scenes thing I learned in doing prep for this episode is that actually the next scene with the Commandant was supposed to be the opening of this episode, and they shot this with the fog, and they thought it like totally fucked up their shoot, and they were like prepared to have to redo it. But then they decided to like lean into what they called like the Kurosawa vibes of like this eerie fog rolling through, and then decided to actually make it the opening of the episode. And so
I mean, reminded me of the Bolivia parts of Che as well.
Yeah, the gorillas up in the hills,
the highlands.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the film Monos?
No.
Hand of Fate?
Colombian? No, the Monos, like monkeys. Is it Colombian, Ian?
Oh yeah, I did see this. I did.
About some
Colombian,
revolutionary kids who are basically just like hanging out with machine guns, waiting for orders up in like really high in the Andes. It reminded me of that as well.
Yeah, definitely. That movie's amazing.
Really great score too.
And so getting back into this scene, Nemec explains to Cassian that the conclusion he's reached is that mercenaries are weapons, and the rebels need to use every weapon they can against the Empire to let them see how an insurgency adapts. And Andor tells him that he's half right. Yes, the Empire doesn't play by the rules, but only because...
What the fuck was that?
It's a
It's a cat. Sorry.
Do you have a gong next to your desk?
Basically, yes.
I was like, I know it's boring for us to recap. You don't have to gong show us all the
This is my addition to the show. You guys
is the gong
consider
show,
this.
Yeah, we need to add a gong. It would play into the Orientalism of Star Wars to add a gong to it for sure.
Yeah.
Our next guest is Mike Myers is like fake
Oh,
gong show
the Love
character.
Guru? Oh, no, the
He
Gong
made-
Show.
He did the gong show and pretended that he was like a British guy who was a host and refused to
I
admit
got
it
in
was
a
him.
big fight with somebody about whether that was Mike Myers. He's like, no, it's a real guy. I'm like, look at him.
Tommy Maitland?
Yes, there you go.
That's great.
That's my Glup shitto.
Tommy Maitland will return in The Mandalorian and Grogu. No, before I got gonged, Andor says, the Empire doesn't play by the rules, but only because they don't care enough to learn. You mean nothing to them, and it might even be better off this way. Nemec then asks if Andor thinks they should just submit and be thankful, which pisses Cassian off, and he sets Nemec straight by staring down at him and asking, do I look thankful to you? And so in this scene, Nemec thinks of the rebellion and the Empire as like two equal forces, is kind of my reading of it. Like he thinks like we are the enemy of the Empire and they're going to learn a lesson. And what Cassian's trying to teach him is like, no, like however little you think they think of us, like it's even less than that. And it's kind of a harsh lesson for Nemec to learn because he's like thought about this for so long. This is so important to him that it's hard for him to imagine that other people don't care as much as he does, is kind of my read of this.
But what does matter here is the money.
Yeah.
And I did some research on this. So famously, Tony Gilroy, in prepping for the show and reviewing the show, basically said like part of the show was inspired by him reading the book Young Stalin, which I have now read.
Right.
Partially
Which goes from like a 3-camera thing to a single camera, right?
There is a spin-off about his cousin's first marriage.
Yeah, Stalin's cousin getting married. Yeah.
But yeah, no, part of it is he said that literally because Diego Luna looks like young Stalin, which is true. Yeah.
I mean, I always thought that picture of like hunky young Stalin looked like a little bit like Shia LaBeouf to me.
Huh.
But yeah, so I agree.
I'm in trouble. I just got in trouble for saying that. I'm sorry. I don't think he's hot anymore.
I was trying to remember if I had already talked about the anecdote of the guy who wanted to get his hair cut like Stalin, but without.
I think you did, but tell it again.
Oh no, that's just a Tumblr post. So maybe like, how do I get my barber to give me the Stalin haircut without showing them a photo of Stalin?
Get over it, man. He's not going to know who that is.
But yeah, so the quote was from Gilroy was basically, Stalin was Lenin's financier. He was a thief. And the reason Lenin loved him so much was he kept bringing them money. They needed money. The shit all cost money. People got to eat. They got to get guns. And you got to get stuff. So I'd like to introduce a new segment.
Okay.
It's called 1907 Minutes.
Ooh,
and it's when we break down the Tiflis bank robbery 7 minutes at a time. So we're going to start with
Great.
7 minutes today. Next
I'm
week,
into
the
it.
next
I'm
7
so
minutes.
happy. Really happy to be here with you, Alex. It's a pleasure.
I'm going to put a timer for myself, and at 7 minutes, I will stop talking about it. But you guys can feel.
Alex, do you mind if I alley-oop you? I think basically 7 minutes will never be enough because people must seek out this story. Every element of it is insane.
Oh, no,
Preparation, aftermath.
Next week, there will be 7 minutes each week until I'm done.
Oh,
okay,
I love this. Okay,
segment.
Great.
Yeah, it's a podcast within a podcast of 7 minutes on the robbery.
It's so worthy of this. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. So I want to start the story. Actually, let me set my timer.
You actually want to time?
He's really setting a timer.
Yeah.
So the story of the Tbilisi 1907 bank robbery is a really crucial comparison point, especially because he said this is about this robbery. And I sort of want to frame it, which is that there is sort of the decision between the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks over how we want to get money for the revolution. The Bolsheviks being the translation for the minority. They are the ones who want to do more revolutionary work versus the Mensheviks are more electorally focused revolutionaries. So the question is, how do we fund our movement? So I'm going to start the story with the story of I'm going to get all of these names wrong, but it's Simon Arakshi Petrosian. The Prussian. I don't know why I went French. I should do Russian. Better known as Kamo, which is really confusing because his name is Kamo. Stalin's nickname is Koba, and then Stalin's wife's name is Kota. Kato. It's so fucking confusing.
And of course, Koba starred with Andy Serkis in the
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing.
But also came out called The Caucasian Robin Hood, which I think is really good.
I have that in here.
Yeah, got me feeling like the Caucasian Robin Hood.
Exactly. So I want to start with him because I think there is no clear analog of this is Stalin in the story of the Russian Revolution. There's a little bit of everybody in all of the stories. So I want to start with Kamo because he basically is sort of a rough and tumble kid from Armenia. He gets into fights a lot. He comes home with his, with a black eye. At the age of 10 years old, he witnesses a public execution in the city square, which is nothing that Cassian experiences.
Yeah.
He then is sent away to seminary school, similar to Cassian's, sent away from He grows up somewhere else,
Right.
which is where he meets Joseph Stalin in the seminary. At that point, both of them are expelled.
For being too cool.
Yes.
Mhm.
He joins the revolutionary movement. And basically, the incentive is, we want to, create, he's going to be part of the revolutionary movement and he sort of needs to expropriate money. Basically, it'll start. So I'm going to start with 1903. Kamo is approached on the street. His bag is searched. They find outlawed literature and he's thrown in jail, which again, this is why I bring him up, Cassian. He's kept in solitary confinement for 4 months. He then maybe pretends that he caught malaria. So he's allowed to walk out in the prison yard during the morning. And then one day while walking through, he noticed that the guard wasn't looking and just scaled the wall and ran away. And he called a cab outside of there and was like, I'm out of here, buddy. And got a carriage.
Basically what happens in Out of Sight.
Yeah.
Soderbergh film.
And then he got arrested again a year later and escaped the second time by, quote, exchanging identity papers with an ignorant peasant.
You didn't need to insult the
Yeah.
peasant. He helped you out.
Yeah.
So yeah, at this point, Lenin is sort of asking Stalin to create a group of expropriators that cannot be actually linked to the Bolsheviks. He needs to. He told Stalin to put at the head of the group an individual who would die rather than reveal the plan should he be arrested, and that man is Kamo. Parallel to this, in the fall of 1906, there's a man named Maxim Litanov. I don't know if either of you guys know him. If you look him up,
Not personally, no.
no, looks suspiciously like Luthin, which is very weird.
Mm.
And so he's also sent to the Caucasus to help Kamo. And they would work together. They were trying to basically move ammunition from Bulgaria into the Caucasus. The way that they do this is they get a yacht and they put all of the stuff on the yacht. And let me make sure I got here. Basically, it's called the Zara. And what they do is they put all of the stuff on the boat. Kamo is on the boat. And the rule is that basically, if anything goes wrong, Kamo is ready to blow himself up along with the boat.
Hardcore.
Cool.
To make sure
That's
that,
good.
even if they fail, that they don't want the Russians to get the military. It's I'll go down with the ship just because they don't want them to get the materials.
Right.
There's a huge storm. Kamo's like, it's my time. Tries to explode himself. The bomb doesn't work. It just kind of fucks up. So instead, it's just sort of stranded in the middle of the ocean. And after 20 hours, they're found by the crew. Everything had sunk already, and then he sneaks off into a rescue boat.
So both the Russian and Cuban revolutions have a shitty boat plot that goes awry, sounds like.
I mean, what's so funny about this is these all sound like Star Wars stories if you just change it to spaceship.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the secret to Star
Yes.
Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at this point, the 5th Congress of the Russian Social Democratic Labor Party has this huge debate whether they want to allow expropriations or not. Guys, we just blew up a ship for no reason. Calm down.
I was your screen
Calm
turned
down.
off.
I'm at 5 minutes, 40 seconds. Calm down. Basically, they decide that they're going to start. They come to the decision that they're not going to allow expropriations anymore. They vote on it. They go, "This is a bad idea." Lenin goes,
this is
"Fuck that."
this is the Mon Mothma's basically saying this is too much for us, right?
Yeah.
So we
Right.
want something that's going to be broadly popular. We want something that's not going to upset the proletariat population.
Yeah, there's
And
also a guy named Krasnin, who I'm going to talk about next time, who is sort of the Mon Mothma equivalent.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, they vote to no expropriations. Lenin goes, "Fuck that, we're going to do it anyway." So I'm going to make a secret crew with Kamo at the head, and we're going to steal some with Stalin and Kamo, and we're going to steal some money. And I'm at 6:30, and I'm going to call it early. That's the first
Nice.
7 minutes of 1907. The 7 minutes.
Like Soderbergh, you got it done.
Exactly.
Under budget, on time.
So yeah, thank you for indulging me on that. I figured people wanted to know what the context
Well,
is.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking, do we think that Gilroy and company are softening things, making things more palatable by having it be the Imperial payroll rather than a bank with regular people's money in it? I mean, this is exclusively money with bad guys stamped on it.
Yeah, that's something we've talked a lot about on this show of when you make the villains snooty British Imperials who talk about how much they love colonizing people and destroying cultures, it makes it a lot easier to then put a gun to their heads, which is
That is a real guy type, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the scene immediately after this with
the Commandant.
Jaden ballsack. What's his name?
Jayhold Beehaz.
Jayhold. Yeah, Jayhold. These sound like British guys talking about like Egyptians and then remarking like, one must admit the pyramids are quite a spectacle, you know? It's got the same flavor as like some of the Lawrence of Arabia conversations.
Yeah, but I mean, are we saying that this is invented? Do you think this is sort of like painting with too broad of a brush? It's well established that Gilroy drew from the Revolutions podcast, a wonderful podcast. And I think one of the things that makes that a cool podcast for me is that sort of as you're walking through it, yes, absolutely, there is, I would say, much like Andor, there's selfishness on the side of the revolutionaries. There's divisions. There's people with a huge range of motivations, right, who get involved, and sometimes their motivations change within the course of the revolution. And that all being said, it is still a time when people are suffering tremendously, right? And I think that's the part that doesn't feel like it's invented for the sake of Andor. I think there's been so many debates about who the colonial analogs even are for the Donnie people, right? Because it's just like endless.
It's multicultural. They're not really. It's not in like a. They're a culture, not a ethnic group.
Yeah, and there's the Highland clearance analog, and there's so many different things. But it just feels like they don't have to do that much work to make it seem like the bad guys were the bad guys, I guess is what I'm saying.
Do you think that? And I don't know if Gilroy or anybody else has talked about this, but the show is famously low on aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they chose to make the Donnie humanoid to like underscore how inhumane the Empire's being here, or like because there's a way that they could do, and this is something that I feel like movies run into. I talk about it with Zootopia all the time, but like when you make the Ian's laughing because I do.
I mean, Zootopia is like pro segregation. It's very strange.
Well, the thing with Zootopia is like
I'm sorry. It's
a race metaphor. It's like a racism metaphor, but they make the subaltern literally a different species.
Welcome to Zoodorkia, the podcast where we talk about Zootopia 7 minutes at a time.
It's time now to Google Judy Hopps. But do you think that there's if they had made the Donnie alien guys, it would have, I don't know, I feel like distanced the audience from this culture. And there's a way, honestly, that having like a guy who looks like he's probably Finnish or something be the leader is more effective than I think having a dude with a frog face or even someone from an ethnic group that fewer Disney Plus subscribers are likely to belong to.
Yeah, I'm just imagining the scene now with like a little guy like whump, bump, 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 like as they're like marching down the
saying like wump bump. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. But also the flip side of it is that Cassian and this crew need to be able to go undercover into among the people. And so if they were all like frog guys, they'd have to like make paper mache frog heads and like pretend, which I would have loved to have seen.
Yeah, I would have liked that. Do they have it would have been fibro plim plams mache. What's the stuff called?
Oh, did you
Flexoplast?
I can't. I've already forgotten it.
Flexoplast mache.
Yeah. But like, I think to your point, like he has said that like for the next arc in them in the prisons, that he was like there would not be aliens because they would want to modularly build these prisons to make sure they fit. And like,
that makes a lot of sense.
Build different toilets for different shaped aliens. Like these are just the human ones. Right.
And I think at the end of the day, Tony Gilroy doesn't have any glup shittos that he's like, I would love to make a whole like planet full of these alien guys. I think he's just like, I would rather just put them in fuzzy hats.
I mean, to wrap back around, like we saw him speak a couple of months ago, I guess at this point, and like someone asked like, oh, what like current political movements are you interested in, or like where do you sort of see the metaphor of the show? And he went on this answer that basically ended with like, I'm really worried about totalitarianism in China. And I'm like,
wow.
Could not find that in Andor at all.
So are the Donnie like Uyghurs or something?
I don't know, but it's like, we seem like, oh, he has a very clear ideology, and then you talk to him like, oh, this is not. I don't know if he's dodging something, but yeah, that's where he.
See, that's what's interesting about you talk to Clint Eastwood, and he's talking all about about individual responsibility and and how the country should be run like a business, but then he'll make like Richard Jewell one of the most effective anti-cop movies I've ever seen. And it's these guys contain multitudes. It's great.
Do we have any final thoughts on this sequence between Cassian and Nemec, or do we want to move on to the Imperials? Because I think that's going to be we'll get to dive deeper into all of this stuff there.
I do want to get to that conversation, but I guess the only other element that I think is worth pointing out, which just maybe obvious, but the sort of sense of like hardened rebel who has lived a life versus young idealist, and I think it's playing out pretty clearly. But it is worth considering, because if we're comparing it to modern leftist movements, and you're saying, Jake, this is like a guy at any DSA or anarchist or whatever type of meeting. I live in Mexico now, and it is one of the big distinctions of my experience that if you are getting involved in organizing movements, it's really, really easy to feel like the things that you have experienced are the dominant experience of the world. And that goes for any direction, right? Yeah, that goes for people who I would say are agree with me or people who disagree with me. There's just a great tendency to say that the thing I know best is my sort of set of anecdata. And in this, I think what makes this interesting is that we know that Nemec's speech comes back at the end of this season. It comes back in the next season. And so maybe this is a sort of like a retrospective insight into this, but it's not like he's a complete fool, right? It would have been really easy to say, like, this is a child who is not going to really produce anything of note and is going to die because he doesn't see the world clearly enough. But that's not exactly the case, because, he motivates Andor, and he ends up motivating people across the galaxy. So there is value to this, in addition to there being value to Andor's realism about the insignificance of their movement and what the Empire does.
I mean, like, he basically says that, like, a week ago, I believed that, like, revolution will happen just because people believe in it. Now I'm a Maoist and believe that, like, violence is part of the system. Like that,
right?
There's a political evolution even there, as much as Cassian's pushing him down. He's like, yeah, no, we have to have military. We have to fight. We have to kill people. I've accepted this.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading a speech, a Mao address. I don't remember which one, and I'm sorry, but he was describing the people who are going to make up the Red Army as vagrants and mercenaries. And by mercenaries, I think he basically means not like literal professional mercenaries, but people who are doing it for their own material gain in the short term, because that's who you're going to have to pick up at first, and then maybe you can inoculate them with the language of revolutionary struggle. But at first, they're going to be like,
what's in it for me? Yeah.
You you guys got food?
Right.
and you can help me, like, you can help me give some food to my wife and kids. Okay, I will. I'm on Team Revolution right now.
And that happens within union organizing, right? Where the people you're bringing into campaigns, they're not necessarily saying, like, yes, this will be the first step towards global communism. They're saying, hey, I'm mad at my boss because he treats me like shit, or because I was supposed to get a raise this year and I didn't.
They just jacked up my rent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Nemec realizes that he's done a oops and says sorry. He does a oops ouch. And tells Cassian that he is thankful he's here no matter what the reason, even if you're a mercenary. And Cassian leaves Nemec with a final line that's meant to be comforting, but with hindsight is kind of sad, where he says, don't worry, you'll be fine. You'll sleep when it's done. And with the hindsight of the fact that Nemec does not make it to the end of this episode, it really sets up...
he does sleep.
He does sleep. That's true. After they shove him full of adrenaline, he then is able to go to sleep. But yeah, by having this be like the end of the first...
A dreams may come.
A dream may come. It has made this episode feel like, as much as it is about like getting one over on the Empire, it does kind of make like Nemec's soul and Nemec's journey like a really crucial part of this episode. And I think why this episode is actually emotionally impactful from a storytelling point. But then after that we then leave our rebels and we arrive at the Imperial base.
First of all, the word just commandant just sends shivers down my spine. It's just like it has bad vibes.
Yeah, no one good is named a commandant for sure.
So back at the base, we are introduced to a new Imperial officer, Commandant Jayhold Beehaz. Is that how him?
I think Beehaz.
Beehaz? Joy Beehaz?
Joy Behar. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, I've been so far like, Jayhold Beehaz is too silly of a name for this guy.
I think it's perfect, personally.
Yeah.
I love it.
He's played
I like Jayhold.
Yeah.
You know, as a kid, they were
got like an Eton
ripping him
thing.
for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Jayhold.
That's why he became a fascist.
Yeah.
Got bullied too hard.
So, he starts a monologue as we see the Donnie approach, and as you said, a sort of a multicultural, multi-class working coalition walks on up onto the mountain to see the eye, and he says, the Donnies, they're a simple people. They breed a sad combination of traits that make them particularly vulnerable to manipulation. On a practical level, they have great difficulty holding multiple ideas simultaneously. We found the best way to steer them, as we'd like, is to offer alternatives. Which reading this now, I got the Nemec talking about holding two concepts in your mind together is repeated here. They are impossible of such thought.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed when I was like really parsing through this speech, when I heard it, I thought he was saying the best way to steer them to what we want them to choose, but he's literally just saying to steer them as we'd like. Like, he really thinks that, like, as Imperials, they have full control over these people. And
right.
you compared it to like British officers earlier. Like, this feels like something straight out of like Lawrence of Arabia, like the way they would talk about like the Bedouin people there.
Yeah, or it made me think of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Albert Memmi, the French-Tunisian like colonial writer, and he has this book called The Colonizer and the Colonized, and there's an entire section that is called The Mythical Portrait of the Colonized, and in that section, I have a little quote here. He says, "Nothing could better justify the colonizer's privileged position than his industry, and nothing could better justify the colonized destitution than his indolence. The mythical portraits of the colonized, therefore, include an unbelievable laziness, and that of the colonizer a virtuous taste for action. At the same time, the colonizer suggests that employing the colonized is not very profitable, thereby authorizing his unreasonable wages," which is almost exactly what happens in this, right? Where they're talking about, we've redirected them down there because then we will be able to use them as cheap labor, right? This is, a real historical cycle, this sort of sense of like, these people, they're so stupid, and they're so stupid that they deserve to be taken advantage of, basically. And actually, we might be doing them a favor by employing them in our newly enclosed land.
Right. It's a little confusing the way that they're sort of racialized, but also just a cultural group, because like if they're a cultural group, then how do they all have this intellectual inability to hold two ideas at once? And what does that say?
You're breaking
about
race science wide open here, my man. I love it. Yeah. Some of these ideas don't track. It's true.
The beauty of Star Wars is that you have an entire planet that is populated by exactly one type of person.
Right. And the whole planet is a city, and yeah.
It's just hitting me that like being a phrenologist in Star Wars must be so complicated because there's so many different head sizes.
Oh yeah.
It's kept busy. Yeah.
You get the calipers out for like
an
what's
Ithorian. How would you even
thank you.
get a
I was trying to
caliper
think
on
of,
there?
Yeah.
You just use like a toenail clipper for like a Babu Frick. Like it's a very tiny,
Yeah. He seems smart. He's good with he's good with machines and stuff. Babu.
Hey.
I'm a man. After he sort of finishes this first part of the speech, Lieutenant Gorn, hi Lieutenant Gorn, appears and hands out drinks. Beehaz continues, quote, "You put a number of options on the table and they're so wrapped up in choosing, they fail to notice you've given them nothing that they thought they wanted at the start."
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious analog, or at least one of them that's being drawn here, is to the treatment of Native Americans in the U.S. Treaties and things like this, and then the later mention of beverages. They basically talk about getting them drunk.
Offering comfort houses.
Yeah, which famous. I was looking at. Is it? How do you? I have a Polish pronunciation question for you, Alex. Is it Raphael Lemkin? How do you pronounce?
I got to look at how it's spelled. 1 second.
It's spelled Raphael with a PH. The guy who coined the term genocide.
Oh yes, I have that on my same notes. I think that's not really a Polish name. What's his? Oh, his own name is Raphael Lemkin.
There you go. He, the guy who coined the term genocide in the book Axis Rule in Occupied Europe, he was also studying the genocide, both I guess violent and cultural genocide of Native people in North America, and specifically cited the introduction of alcohol as a form of cultural genocide, like as a way to destroy a culture, which, you know, my tinfoil hat was manifesting around my head when they were talking about like introducing an imperial viewing party or whatever. I'm immediately thinking like, oh, like making a Star Wars show about leftism.
So I
see. Is this Kubrick trying to tell us that he staged the moon landing? Is this like what's going on here?
So I found this quote from somebody in the 1700s talking about how they basically traded some rum to some Iroquois in exchange for some contract work. And he goes, "They are extremely apt to get drunk and are so very active to get quarrelsome and disorderly. Indeed, it be the design of Providence to extirpate these savages in order to make room for cultivators of the earth. It seems not improbable that rum may be the appointed means. It has already annihilated all the tribes who formerly inhabited the seacoast." Benjamin Franklin.
Jeez.
Whoa. Okay.
God, slave owners on those walls.
Hit us at the end there.
Yeah.
I was reading some studies or some works on alcoholism in contemporary Native American and First Nations groups in Canada, also Aboriginal groups in Australia, and like there is also this difficulty in extracting sort of binge or problem drinking from cultural usage of like intoxicants, and a lot of, I mean, I think we might look at it as like an excuse by someone who is dealing with substance abuse, that like, no, this is part of my culture, and then other people from within those cultures saying like that's a bastardization, that's you know, colonizer thinking, that they told you this is indigenous to your mind or whatever, and so it's okay for you to get drunk all the time. And there's like a, you know, there are special additional concerns in trying to help people who are abusing alcohol within an indigenous culture because of this like this intertwined relationship between, like, you know, alcohol abuse and ceremonial alcohol use.
I also found an interesting stat, or I guess fact, that basically the introduction of alcohol to the native tribes basically caused poverty because it made them worse hunters, which I never really thought about before.
Sure.
Yeah, like it's gonna, there's like, if you've been trained for, you know, time immemorial of like very like high skilled, you know, breathing exercises and targeting, like that's gonna really fuck you up.
You can't drink and hunt.
Yeah.
Not really.
Right.
At least with a bow and arrow. With a gun, it's a little bit easier, but...
Yeah.
And I think historically it's even tied up in, because it becomes such a cash crop like sugarcane or something, where they sort of effectively replaces all subsistence farming, all like intra-communal farming, because now the only thing that's really profitable, including kind of what's happening in Oaxaca, Mexico, where I live now with mezcal, is replacing, you know, something that would have stayed in the community, fed you, not required you to participate in this sort of like colonizer economy, is now basically the only option for you.
We will continue with Joy Behar's speech. The deeper Donnie's problem is pride. The Donnie would rather lose, they'd rather suffer than accept, which is wildly ironic as they've choked down everything we've thrown at them in the last 12 years. Which again goes back to we're literally stuffing this down their throat, whether it's be politics or liquor or food. Also
just like a chilling specific amount of time. Like there's something about the 12 years where I'm imagining what strings have been pulled in my life over the past 12 years, and by whom, and can I even see the strings, you know?
Okay, it continues. It's a 10-day trek up from the lowlands. We offered them a transport because we'll know they'll refuse, but then along the way, we've placed up a series of, quote, comfort units, shelters and taverns with cheap local beverages. And I feel like this was a Disney thing where, like, we can say comfort units, but we can't say like what they're being comforted with. But it's like
yeah.
But I wonder, does that just mean that Disney Standards and Practices doesn't know like the term comfort women?
I think
Does that
I
mean
think
that they-
comfort unit was okay, but not comfort women.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Comfort could just mean that they're comfy couches.
Yeah.
I think comfort units is what they called those $5,000 a night bunk beds at the Star Wars hotel.
Oh yeah, they're just glamping. And he goes, he goes to continue. There used to be 15,000 people that showed up for the Eye. This year, there were only 500 pilgrims at the beginning of the march, and then thanks to his system, they've now dwindled down to 60.
Which is heartbreaking.
Yeah,
That number of 60 is like so tiny. We've talked about this a few weeks ago, but the actual decision to not have it be 15,000 people is actually like a production one, because they were shooting this during COVID. And so the original plan was to have like a huge party of people, but thanks to COVID, they couldn't have that many extras altogether. And this is a great example of how the limitations of production can then inspire you to make something that's so much more impactful, I think. So yeah, it's this system of comfort units and just dwindling the people down. And through this whole monologue, we're seeing like what few Donnies are left walking through the Highlands is really eerie and really scary. And it is doing such a good job of like painting a picture of how the Imperials have destroyed the community that's here on Aldhani.
yeah. The Wikipedia explanation, like summary of the episode, says like, they went. It just says like they went down from 15,000 to 60, which to me skips the like most upsetting part of this. Is that like even this year they started at 600,
Yeah.
like they're just all drunk or passed out or whatever over the way there. Like that to me, that is sort of more heartbreaking than it's all heartbreaking, but there's something like just how easily they have broken them from that process. Even these were the last most adamant ones who are still around. Sorry, Ian, what are you saying?
No. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the other thing that complicates this sequence for me is the fact that obviously the Empire treats them as a monolith and is talking very poorly about them. But given what we know about the aftermath of the Aldhani garrison attack and sort of how it affects the Donnie people and stuff, and even across the galaxy, anybody doing, however they describe it, like a cultural event or something, right? I think it is also worth pointing out for me the fact that the rebels kind of do this in the same way, with the exception maybe of Lieutenant Gorn, who has a personal relationship with somebody from the Donnie people and probably sees them as individuals. But otherwise, not to say that the rebels are equivalent to the Empire by any means. And of course, I think, they do humanize them. But I think this happens to modern leftists as well, right? If we're trying to talk about a place like Venezuela or Gaza or whatever, we have a tendency to push back against the right-wing narrative by saying, they must all be good. They must all be in such and such a circumstance, or they feel this way about their leadership. And I think the show does a great job of, that sort of being irrelevant to the rebels, because like they have one purpose. They feel a little bit bad for the Donnie people, but ultimately they're a stepping stone for this larger campaign. And they don't have a great amount of investment in trying to understand them as individuals or as like a diversity of perspectives or experiences or something. And, I think that's a challenge for left-wing people across the world when you're trying to be able to speak with nuance about whatever's happening somewhere, and saying, probably, there's like an annoying guy there, and there's a guy who tells really bad jokes, and there's a lady who's very sweet. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they're instrumentalizing themselves, which is like a thing that we see a lot of the actual kind of speaking rebel characters deal with. The Luthen monologue, most notably, but like they're instrumentalizing these people for their, for the brighter day, for the children of the Donnie, but the Donnie have not signed up for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Luthen never would have considered actually recruiting a Donnie to be part of this crew, the heist. The idea of like, hey, they might actually have really good ideas of how to, navigate the space, or might even know better things about the actual material analysis on the ground. But that's that would be too complicated.
I mean, this is basically Gorn is basically like, first of all, daring to name a Star Wars guy Gorn after the famous Gorn that Kirk fights. But this is, I guess, kind of like the Vietnam vets who fell in love with a Vietnamese woman and become peace activists. Is that kind of the analog here?
I think so, yeah.
Or also, Dances with Wolves.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's Jake Sully,
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
yeah.
I was trying really hard not to talk about Quaritch and Varong, actually, but you've forced my hand. Yeah, I mean, somebody. I've seen a lot of memes that are like, "This is a cop with his Filipino wife."
Yeah.
My joke is it's every San Diego couple. It's military boyfriend, goth girlfriend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just got to put a flat brim Hurley hat on Quaritch.
Where did he get a Deadpool hat?
Yeah. I mean, Disney owns both properties. We could put Punisher logos on the RDA.
That's true.
They already have the Oakley glasses, so they're
They
only
do
like
have the
one pretty
Oakleys are
close.
Pretty
so
close.
fucking
You know,
good.
at least in the locker, they have the Deadpool hat in there.
Yeah.
I am glad that there was a recent comic of the Punisher where he like runs into those guys. And it's just like, why the fuck did you put my sticker on your car? This sucks. You all suck. And like rips it up and leaves.
No, but thinking about Blue Lives Matter for the Na'vi, that's a whole different
Oh,
thing. You know what
shit.
I'm talking about?
I can't believe you've done this. I back the blue. Honestly, I might have to make a t-shirt
Nope, you don't.
that I wear at home.
You don't have to.
Oh, I thought this is a merch available on.
Yeah, like a picture of
Yeah.
Neytiri that says "Back the Blue," and maybe it's Neytiri from behind.
Well, the front is her from the front, and then her on the back. In the back.
Oh, wait, like a Na'vi bikini t-shirt.
yeah, exactly.
Now we're getting somewhere. I gotta go. I gotta go to T Public.
Are we good continuing on with the scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See that we are then introduced to Colonel Sodin Pedigar.
Colonel Soderbergh?
Sodin Pedigar, played by Richard Katz, who asks Beehaz if they have informed the Donnie that this will be the last year that they will be permitted to travel through the Sacred Valley. And Joy Behar responds, "There's no profit in that." Which I kind of was. Does he mean literally there's no profit in that?
No, I think he means like
He just
we
means
wouldn't get
benefits.
anything out
Yeah.
of telling them. Because then he like goes on to
that's what
explain,
He says, we spent the last decade promoting an Imperial viewing festival down in the Enterprise Zone. They'll have that going forward.
Just chilling. It's
Yeah.
rough. You know
I love to grab a beer at the Enterprise Zone.
Yeah,
It's a SpawnCon entered area.
costs 20 credits for a tall can.
This obviously reminded me of Gaza and of like sort of enforced and in many other places enforced kind of religious practice zones. They're also doing something very similar on the UCLA campus in response to the pro-Palestine protests that were brutally put down by Jerry Seinfeld's wife, among other people. Where like this is the official sanctioned like public expression square, and it's 10 feet by 10 feet or whatever. Really horrifying to think about the Imperial Viewing Festival.
Yeah, I mean, but it also speaks to sort of the efficacy of like not obligating people to do it, but rather sort of like setting up a series of incentives that make it more and more likely. And again, if we're recognizing that these people are in difficult material circumstances, it's hard to sort of go individually and say like, this is your fault, you fell for the Empire's tricks or something, when in practice, this is just, probably the thing that was the most convenient and makes the most sense for you, and happens to indigenous practices, right?
Trunk or treating in the LAPD parking lot.
Because they used to live in this valley. So there wasn't much of like a trek that was happening. It was maybe other people who would come in from like other villages and stuff. But now everybody's been pushed out by it.
They dammed the sacred river, right?
Yeah.
And the dam is also serving as the vault.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But now
Thanks to the caves.
I'm just thinking about the free speech zone from Arrested Development, which is like a little like gated things. But yeah, back to Aldani. Pedigar points out that this project is in the Sacred Valley, and Beehaz responds that the Donnie will return, quote, when you need plenty of arms and legs to build all you've got planned.
Oof.
Yeah, subtext becomes text. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a great bit of irony here that by the end of this episode, all of the Imperials, including the Commandant, are going to become arms and legs for the crew as they're like pushing the money around.
That's great.
The irony is here that he doesn't have the stamina to survive that. He's going to literally have a heart attack and die.
Yeah.
But he's joking about it for
if
the
they
Aldani.
need lots of legs and arms, they should get aliens that have lots of legs and arms.
Yeah, like the Doctor.
Yeah.
They have a whole planet full of Wookiees who they've imprisoned. Like, just start trucking in the Wookiees.
But they only have 2 arms. I'm talking about like
Well, they're
8
strong.
limbs. Yes.
I meant.
They're really strong.
Pettigrew asks Gorn if he thinks that Donnie will let them build in peace. Gorn holds himself back and responds, I don't think they'll have much of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first of 2 times where he does the Sideshow Bob face when he steps onto a rake of just,
Yeah.
We do also learn that Gorn has been here for 7 years, which I think is instructive. Like, you were talking about how, like, 12 years is such a long time. And, like, 7, I think, is just long enough that, like, Gorn was probably here right when things started getting bad for the Donnie. And they really started to put the screws on them. And the reason he's probably stuck around this long, where probably anyone else who was there, is because he's trying to fuck them over. That, like, he's become a mole, and maybe anyone else who had a conscience has left from that 7 years ago.
And I think it's a really wonderful part of Andor. Something that, like, I think in the episode where they attack the private security people, and simultaneously, so there's like they're running on the ground. We're cutting to small ships flying around, and then we're cutting to sort of like Star Destroyer Imperial motion. Right? There's sort of these like levels of how does history move? It's moving among individuals. It's moving among the sort of like nationwide. It's moving globally. And I think in the same way, this sense of time, you know, we have these like important weeks in this show, right? To use the Lenin term, where it seems like everything is happening, but also part of how this happened was like over the course of 7 years. And also part of how this happened is over the course of, you know, hundreds of years as they tended in this direction. And I think it's impressive to be able to keep up that sense of sort of like distinct motion. It's like one of those, you know, you get like a model of the solar system when you're a kid and you spin them all at the same time and you have to sort of see like, you know, what's the deal with that?
You throw up from looking at it. Yeah, I mean, I like the way that Andor, the show, gives us these different reasons for and like levels of engagement with these causes where, you know, you've got Nemec, who's fully bought in on a theoretical and like personal conviction level. You've got Andor, who obviously has this long Han Solo, Rick Blaine arc of getting further like convicted, and then you've got someone like Gorn, who it seems like is much more fuck the Empire than he is like, we need to liberate the galaxy. His is more of a personal vendetta, but he's willing to work with these people because he's black-pilled about the whole thing, basically. And like those perspectives are all shown to be effective. Like, it's not Gorn doesn't really get, he's not depicted as like, I don't know, villainous or craven or lesser particularly, because he's a huge part of the role of the scheme. It's only people like Skeen. It's people who are like actively trying to get something out of this. That undermine the cause, that are
like adventurists or
There was a line in the previous episode that everybody has their own rebellion, and that's what this episode in particular, and even in these 7 minutes, we really get a feel for like how each of these people came to the rebellion.
I also don't think it's unintentional that you have a black man stuck behind these 2 very villainous white men.
Sure, it was an accident. Yeah, I mean, is it possible that one of my glupshitos can be that Palpatine's first name is Sheev? Can Sheev be a glupshito?
It's borderline, but I think I will
said
allow
Skeen,
it.
and then I was just thinking about Sheev again.
Is Sheev for short for anything?
No.
Like Sheevan?
No, just Sheev.
Yeah,
just Sheev.
The same thing. Sheev and Soderbergh.
Yeah, that too.
We're all there.
So we're gonna wrap up the scene. Basically, they look out over the horizon. Beehaz talks about how incredible the eye is, and Pettigrew says he's looking forward to it, and they basically, they go, "Gentlemen, to evil," and take a big drink. And yeah, behind them, Gorn contains his anger and disgust.
There's two things I want to highlight about this final seconds, which is that Beehaz refers to the eye as a celestial spectacle. They've really flattened this deeply important religious and spiritual event into just a fancy light show for the Empire.
Yeah.
And they are keeping the best viewing place of it for themselves. That in the future, they are going to get to watch the eye for the rest of time on Aldhani. And then the last moment is just this look on Gorn's face. He's doing such a good job of composing himself, and
he's such a good face actor. Last episode when he walked away, he does the same. He does a really good face acting.
This might just be Kuleshov effect of just reading something on people's blank faces, but the way he looks down at the end of that, you really feel the weight of how he's been holding on to this for 7 years, and now he's gonna finally get to do something about it.
Yeah, you reminded me because you mentioned Casablanca's Rick, Jake, but I think there's that line in the International where they talk about soldiers breaking ranks and shooting their own generals, and that being sort of a big stage in the revolution. And it really does seem like you're saying, he's repressed it as much as he can, and later in this episode when he finally gets to go mask off, it's such a wonderful moment for him. I'm excited for that guy.
Yeah, one of the great happy accidents of Star Wars, which is just full of them, is the shooting in England and the way that it's established in Star Wars that you're just going to get some absolute RADA heavy hitters for every small role. Yeah. It's just going to be someone who's one of the greatest actors you've ever seen, who's only done a bunch of episodes of Marcella or whatever. And then in this he plays a guy who's in the background who just owns the whole episode.
Catherine Hunter is just we're bringing in this one for Cyril's mom, and she's one of the greatest Shakespearean performers.
Exactly. And you look at somebody Steve, what's his name? Stephen, the guy who plays Joy Behar, who's this guy's been acting
Stanley Townsend.
Stanley Townsend. He's been acting for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's done Shakespeare. He's done every British TV show you've ever heard of. He played Saddam Hussein in a TV movie, bizarrely.
I missed that one.
So, you get to bring this guy in, and maybe British viewers.
You guys are reviewing that movie next week, right?
Yes, we are. Maybe British viewers might recognize this guy, but to me, I've never seen this person before, but he's just supremely skilled in this small role.
There's something about the British vocal tone that just sounds right being evil.
Absolutely. And some of it just comes from George Lucas being a little boy who gets to play with his favorite action figures, Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness. And just building on that.
Yeah.
And then the scene ends, and then I think to your point earlier of that scene and the Nemec scene being switched makes sense, because it does a weird thing, they're inside and then cut to outside and then being well, that was a great meeting. There's a very much something was supposed to be in here. The time dilation of movies is off. Back outside, Beehaz asks Gorn what he thinks of Pettigrew, and Gorn tells him he's an engineer. Pelgar's charm tactics don't work.
And then he has such a funny line where he's won't be for lack of trying. Being a commandant in the Empire, you still have to kiss the ass of your boss. And it's just going all the way up the chain of command until you get to Sheev. Everybody is just sucking up to their boss, who is increasingly humorless as you get up there.
He's an engineer. Also felt like code for he's on the spectrum.
Yeah, because he's an engineer. We should say
he's an engineer.
Right.
Yeah,
and he is. It's not really spelled out directly, but he is the engineer who has come to build out the next stage of the Aldhani base here.
Got it.
So he is basically Beehaz has been in charge of the dam, And now, like, the new guy who's, like, coming in to take over the headquarters, who's going to be his new boss, basically,
He's
now here.
He's designing Epcot.
Yeah, he's designing Epcot.
I honestly, when they first mentioned that like an engineer was coming to visit, I was like, oh, cool, Mads Mikkelsen's going to show up. And then I realized it's not that kind of show exactly.
Oh, I was thinking of the engineer from Alien.
Oh, yeah, the space jockey.
Yeah.
He's coming.
Sorry, Ian, were you saying something before? I think
No.
interrupted.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, I was just it just reminded me of I don't know if you guys have read any like early Orwell stuff where he writes about basically like hanging out in British colonies in Southeast Asia where he really was. And he basically paints everybody as like a self-involved little shithead who, I mean, this is not unlike the ISB stuff, right? Where a lot of it is about sort of like self-promotion or about like weird power struggles within, in the case of Orwell, it'll be like the English club or whatever, right? So somebody wants to be the next president. And in doing so, what they're arguing about to them is substanceless, but what it actually is like, well, should we give them money for housing or should we wait another 5 years? So it's something that's like massively consequential to the people that they are discussing. But for them, the only reason it matters is because this guy thinks the other guy's wife is hot and wants to, charm her by showing off or something.
Speaking of George Orwell, I'm realizing that during the prison heist, the prison escape thing, we will have Andy Serkis, and right in the middle, we'll have the release of Animal Farm.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Are we going to cover that on the pod?
I think we should cover that on the pod.
Mm-hmm.
I actually would be down for that. I think that could be fun.
Am I wrong? Is that an Angel Studios release?
Angel Studios, they bought it. They didn't produce it.
Yeah, no, I figured that
they're releasing it, yeah.
Right, but I'm like an A24 guy, but for Angel Studios, where I think of them as the auteur even when they acquire something after it's been produced.
You signed up for the AAA Angel Studios membership that gets you
I have
a discounted
I have a
ticket
$450 leather jacket that says Angel Studios on it.
I'm just remembering did you guys see the A24 versus Capcom meme, which is very good?
Ugh, no, I didn't.
It's like all of the H24 characters lined up against the Capcom characters. It's very good.
I still remember the interview where Sir Ridley Scott called it A23, and I respect him so deeply for that. Genuinely didn't remember what it was.
What a king!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Back outside, Beehaz asks if they're ready for tonight. Gorn tells him that they've brought in 30 centuries from the Alkenzi base. And Beehaz reminds Gorn that tonight must go perfect. And he goes, that's the plan, sir.
And there's a subtle bit of like backstory in here as far as like, or there's a subtle bit of like heist planning in here. That Gorn is the one who's in charge of like bringing in 30 centuries, which is how they're sneaking Andor and the crew in. And then he also says that we've put our best men on the perimeter, which you'll notice is far away as they can get from the base. And so that's just like one little line that just like we're learning how the plan works through like this dialogue between characters, as opposed to having Gorn in the scene with the model saying like, and I'm going to tell everybody to go away and close their eyes and not look at the base.
Yeah, I don't want to steal from your future guests, but there's so many great moments where like Gorn is waiting for a cue phrase from the people as they line up, right? And the show has enough respect for you as a viewer to say like, I don't need to explain this to you, right? This is obviously something that was going to like, they were waiting to be able to proceed. Or like you're saying, he'll sort of do the reverse psychology thing of like telling the soldiers that he like wants more soldiers down there in the vault, and then they get to push back, so he gets to be the one to sort of like, well, I'll be the good guy and let you guys.
I was honestly disoriented by a Star Wars product showing any respect for me, the viewer. Not to get too highfalutin about this, but I was imagining like, is this the future of like thoughtful narrative art? Are we entering a sort of IP style renaissance where in order to get the patronage to do anything, you have to depict biblical scenes, so to speak, except that in this case it's like it's gotta be Deadpool meets the Flintstones, but like if you're skilled enough, you can make that like a heartbreaking story about climate change or whatever.
I remember someone described it to me is that like Hollywood in the current moment is really bad ideas done as well as you possibly can. Like there's a ceiling. Like there's a lot of people who are good at the craft, who are doing the best version of this thing. It's a B- idea, and you can only make it so good.
Yeah, I mean that's the best case scenario. A lot of it is bad ideas done badly.
There is something really interesting in the fact that, like, according to Tony Gilroy, they got next to no creative notes throughout the entire production of making the show, which is insane. I mean, what it is that Kathleen Kennedy protected them. Kathleen Kennedy stood up for them and gave them like the protection. And the literal only note that, as far as I can tell, they ever got creatively about the show was that Marva couldn't say "fuck the Empire" at the end of the show.
I just heard about
season,
that.
Which is like honestly a good note. You know, like fight the Empire is maybe better.
Do you think that? Has there been any reporting on like Gilroy getting them out of such a hole with Rogue One that they owed him or something?
He hasn't. He has very clearly avoided talking about it.
Everyone has been very polite about that.
Yeah. The latest thing that he said was that, like, if you look at like WGA arbitration, you have to write like at least a third. You have to rewrite at least a third of a script to get a screenplay credit. And that's what he has on the Rogue One script. So that's the closest he's ever gotten to saying, like, how much of Rogue One did you write?
Okay.
And what happened was they had a version of Andor that they were trying to make for a long time. It was with the Americans showrunners at first.
Okay.
Stephen Schiff,
it just like wasn't working. And he
they were
wrote up
show
a
Andor's
treaty of
butt
lies
as much as possible.
Well, he writes the next episode.
He does.
Does he?
Yeah.
Cool.
I was listening. This was many years ago, but the Blank Check podcast on their Patreon, they do commentaries. It's they're up. I like to plug them when I can. But they do commentaries on their Patreon, and they were going through all the Star Wars movies, and they had Chris Weitz, who's their friend, go on their Rogue One commentary.
A great episode.
And he offers some. You guys know this already, but he offers some interesting insights. And it's like it feels like you're kind of getting away with something by listening to it.
Yeah, the most interesting insight that relates to Andor is that the original plan for Andor was that he was actually going to be a double agent for the Empire. And that over the course of Rogue One, he was going to get a conscience and join the rebellion against the Empire. And that would have resulted in a very different series if they had followed through on that.
They saved that brilliant idea for General Hux in the part of Rise of Skywalker where I had gone to the bathroom and I came back in. I was like, what the fuck is happening? And my girlfriend was like, no, it's about as confusing if you were here.
Yeah.
The movie that started COVID.
I was like, could you imagine what would have happened if that movie didn't come out before COVID? COVID happened. And people were like, we're just waiting for the Star Wars movies with like bated breath for years. And then they're like going to like risk their lives to go to the theaters. And then it's that movie.
Yeah, I think Chapek would have gotten kirked probably.
Yeah, it might have been like an accelerationist Luthen style. You know, we could have freed ourselves from Disney with that.
Right. Was Stellan Skarsgård in Wuhan in 2019? Has anyone tracked this?
Important question.
I will say the coolest thing that was cut from that movie was, is it Hux who controls the lightsaber guillotine?
I think so.
Yeah, it was a really metal idea. There was going to be a lightsaber guillotine that they do a public execution with, which would have been cool.
You know, there was a ship designed by Colin Trevorrow for his version of Episode 9 that it now exists in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at the Disney parks. They like, what do we do with this ship design? I don't know. We'll put it at the theme park, so you can go visit the one vestige of Duel of the Fates or whatever his thing was called.
We leave Gorn as Beehaz tells him, perfect, I want that word ringing in your ears. And then we return to the crew as they're changing into their Imperial disguises. And Andor finds Terriman and Nemec using an Imperial field comm to establish communication with Vel and Cinta, who are hiding in a cove not far from the dam. And then once they've like successfully made contact, Nemec explains how like this field comm is like so battle tested that it's going to be able to withstand anything. Which is another great piece of like imperial, like old school tech that the rebellion is using in their
Look,
battle.
I've been sitting on this since you mentioned the Tony Gilroy interview with Reason.com. But I think if we're talking about what appeals to libertarians, the right to repair stuff that runs throughout Andor, I think is huge. This is like, I'm not joking, one of 3 instances. I mean, later there's the extended flashback with Clem where he's basically just saying like, just being able to fix stuff, that's like one of the most important rights in the whole universe.
I gotta say, that looks exactly like... I just watched a video on YouTube of how to turn an
SNES cartridge.
No, I was going to say a used Bitcoin mining rig into a gaming PC for under $100.
Yeah.
It looks conspicuously
He's got one of those pieces. Yeah.
like a Bitcoin mining rig that's like a GPU. It's basically a GPU with like a CPU soldered onto it and like the biggest heat sink you've ever seen. And it looks a lot like that.
They head back on the road, and there's something funny here where they have their Imperial uniforms on, but then they put the parka over it, and so it's really like bunchy and it doesn't look very good. Cassian can't even get his like closed all the way.
Skeen's hats suck. I love it, but it sucks.
Yeah. They don't do the James Bond wetsuit over the tuxedo thing where he's clearly not wearing the tuxedo until the very last moment.
I think there is like a little bit of a character thing here that like Andor isn't quite as like polished and good at like going undercover as he's like gonna become. So like him futzing with his jacket is like emblematic of that.
All he knows is how to shove his hands into a long coat and walk quickly, but not that quickly.
With his hood up. Don't forget the essential
There's also
hood.
really funny when he's running down the hill, you can see the back. You could clearly see the like pack.
Oh,
There's, like, the squares in the back of their coats, which is really funny.
That's funny.
It just shows that like as much as they've thought this plan through, at the end of the day, you gotta just throw the jacket over it and just hope no one sees them. You know, like there's no such thing as a perfect plan.
I think this is all fair to say because this is a show where there's 2 or 3 conversations with Cyril about his tailoring choices, and there's also the bit with the ISB officer who doesn't have his tunic buttoned up. I mean, this is like, wardrobe storytelling is a part of this program.
Yeah, I was going to say we close on a little Easter egg because they're testing the connection and they keep saying Echo 1, Echo 1, and that is a reference to the Ghostbusters car. The Echo 1.
It sure is. It sure is.
All of the Force ghosts are trapped in that little box.
Yoda is in the trap. Yeah. The guy from the EPA just throws a switch and it kills Yoda's soul forever.
You know Yoda and Slimer are partying in there though. Like they're having a great time.
Look, the first thing, most of what Yoda does when he's first introduced is eat Luke's lunch.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's throwing down hot dogs.
Uh-huh. I was gonna go with expropriating makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys talked about this, but I was thrilled to learn from Wikipedia that the goats are called goat with an H.
Yeah.
Which kind of
they're also called Dre goats, so like they have a second name too.
It calls back to on Dagobah when there are just snakes, just like regular ass snakes in the background. Some stuff is the same, you know?
If they did that now, they would have like glued a horn to like the snake's head, you know? Like that's what they do with the goats. They just put like an extra set of antlers on them and then it's like, okay.
I'm listening.
As they get back on the road, Cassian then jokes about how Terriman loves shouting orders. And that's when Skeen goes, oh, like they never told you. He was a stormtrooper. And Cassian's very surprised to hear this, and Skeen kind of jokingly says how you should have been here when Cinta found out. But then it gets serious, they slaughtered her whole family. And this is such a great piece of like exposition that like with 2 lines, we've now learned so much about 3 characters. We've learned who Terriman was, we've learned who Cinta was, how they've ended up in the rebellion, and we've also like seen another example of how Skeen is just such a shithead that he like is willing to joke about that kind of stuff with Cassian. And he's trying to establish this rapport with Cassian that is then he's hoping going to pay off at the end when he asks Cassian to run away with him.
And
Now this is...
go ahead. No, go ahead, Jake.
I was going to say, this is... And I fell off after Book of Boba Fett or whatever, so I don't... Maybe there are even more examples. But this is the third, reformed stormtrooper character we've seen who's played by a black actor. Because you've got Finn...
Yeah.
You've got the Naomi Ackie character from Rise of Skywalker, and now Terramin. And I don't know if they're saying anything in particular, if this is just,
there is
incidental.
There is a fourth who...
There is another. Remember?
There is another. Let me look up his name really quick.
I do think there is sort of that stereotype of like, especially post George Floyd, of like, we will have a police chief in our show, but she will be a black woman.
Right.
Like, we will acknowledge that there is that is how you hint that there's something more behind. They're not just an evil police chief. They are somebody who is a marginalized identity who has chosen to be here.
So there is a fourth person. There's Alexander Callis from the show Rebels. He is a white guy. He has he ends up getting like 70s mutton chops, but he's voiced by David Oyelowo. So he's voiced by a black actor.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I mean, it does have
that's kind of like both, where they kind of still did the thing.
It's like a Platoon or like this is like a real Muhammad Ali style. I mean, not in the show or in the Star Wars universe, they don't speak a lot to anti-black racism, but the sense of like maybe these people are better positioned to wake up to some of this stuff. But I do think in terms of you talking about just like laying down exposition, I also want to give the show credit because it's the type of thing not to rag on it, but like a Mandalorian show that they would just say that, and it would basically have like no relationship to any other scene in the show. You just have to just like take it for granted. You're like, okay, I guess like that's true. But with Terramin, we've had a bunch of scenes where he's like kind of a dick, right? He's like clearly kind of vying for control, and he's used to a very established hierarchy, and he can't really let go. And, I think that is a thing that happens, right, in the world where there's sort of like revolutionaries or activists or whatever coming from different backgrounds and sort of insisting, like imposing that version of things onto the new version.
He's like an Iraq War vet who's like become a lefty in a way,
Yeah.
He's like, what's the main guy? Graham Chapman? What's the guy's name?
Oh, yeah.
Plattner. Is that it?
Yeah.
The guy who killed Lenin?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh wait, no, the Glenn Chapman is Monty Python. I'm thinking of
yeah, you're thinking of Mark David Chapman. No, I was with you. I just thought we were all doing
No,
it.
I was just being dumb.
Too clever by half.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is also something interesting about this line, just speaking to Cinta's character, because up to this point, we've only seen her say like maybe 10 words at all. And so the image of her, like when she found out, says a lot that like this must have been like the one time she like yelled at anybody,
or she is just still processing since that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it maybe speaks to some future kind of attachment stuff where she's clearly prioritizing. She's able to let go of interpersonal relationships more easily than other characters.
Yeah, the fact that she's able to move on from that and like work with Terramin, whereas like I think any other character on the show would have a much harder time if they had that same personal relationship.
Yeah, and I think as you're implying, Jake, she has a willingness to do things in the future that are colored by this. Maybe that there's just sort of like extremism that is built on real experience. And this is to get to the 1907 minutes. Sorry, what is the name of the most important part of the podcast?
1907 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is the background of Stalin and Kamo having been in camps and Lenin's family having been killed. Right. This is like the real stuff that allows people to maybe cross what we would consider to be moral boundaries. Right. If I just recruited you tomorrow and said, "Are you willing to kill a bunch of soldiers or sacrifice indigenous people for the revolution?" You might be uncomfortable. But if you're coming from something like this, it's kind of a different world.
Mm-hmm. We then return to Cinta and Vel as they take out a piece of equipment that looks like something like a jet engine, and then they hear something roar through the sky, and they look up and see the first meteor of the eye break through the clouds. And with that ominous image, we close out this 7 minutes of Andor. Guys, thank you so much for joining us to discuss these 7 minutes. Do you have any kind of final thoughts about what we've seen here? Anything you didn't get to talk about, or anything that's coming up in the episode or beyond?
You can talk about the show as writ large.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, thank you so much for inviting us and
Yes.
for giving me a reason to finally watch this show, which
It's
I
good.
enjoyed quite
That's
a
That
bit.
was a
half
gift
the
to
reason
me
for the
also.
show is
Yeah.
just for
Yeah.
me to force more people
Ian
to watch
hate
it.
us.
You guys should do a show about Justified, so I'll finally watch Ian's other favorite TV show.
Yeah, I do love Justified.
Just kidding. We'll probably do that. No, I mean, I'm really loving it. I'm excited to get into season 2, and I'll probably send you guys a big email about all my thoughts. But since you have more of a Star Wars, you're deeper into the minutia. I did want to ask. This is jumping ahead to the finale of season 1, but is this the first time we've seen someone just use a straight up knife to kill someone in Star Wars? It's a regular ass knife.
Yeah.
There
That's a
are
good question.
knives throughout Star Wars.
But is it being used as a weapon?
But are they like this is just a switchblade? It's not like even like a
Like-
knife saber or something.
The
I mean,
Chandrilan
Skeen
knife.
had a knife earlier,
Yeah.
like he puts it up to Cassian's neck when
Right,
he discovers the
right.
Kyber and
Like I don't think
stuff.
I don't think they've done like the knife scene from Saving Private Ryan in Star Wars.
When
Right.
I'm on the page on Wikipedia for knife,
yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of appearances of
Oh
knives.
well, I mean, obviously the first appearance of a knife would be the Star Wars Christmas special when he's
Yeah.
when he's
Wow.
cooking.
Yeah.
That's right.
True.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, with that's
Harvey Korman himself.
Gourmanda or something like that. I
Yeah,
think
it
his name
all
is
comes
something like
back to the holiday special. The amount of times that we've brought things back to that is
I think we
There's,
have to do it for Christmas.
yeah, we'll do it.
I think you should. Everyone listening to this should check out the broader articles on Wikipedia. I was looking at the Wikipedia article for the concept of death, and
What's going on over there, man?
because it's all written in the past tense because it's a long time ago. It begins. Death was the permanent cessation of all vital signs.
I think that's cool.
well-
Wikipedia is written from like the end of time, looking back, sort
Yeah.
of a.
We solved it.
Right,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the dark side is all about overcoming death. So
Right.
maybe what
Oh. Is it
Wikipedia is
possible to
saying
learn
is
this
that
power?
eventually
we,
Yeah.
the
we,
dark
live,
side-
we live in the dark.
Yeah, we live
yeah.
in the dark side.
Mhm.
The dark side
Yeah,
one.
and then there's every Wikipedia article has an appearances section. And I believe they have literally every piece of Star Wars media
Yeah.
is listed as including the concept of death.
I also like that death has canon and legend.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Death legends.
Ian, any final thoughts?
Well, just I didn't want to step on other people's toes, but I think one of the things that continues throughout Andor is more of this discussion of partisanship, and a lot of it is around Saw Gerrera. And season 2, I think, goes absolutely crazy about this as like a main essential thread.
Only I have clarity of vision.
Exactly. And I think I just think that is something special. It's kind of a meme to talk about leftist infighting, but to me, it's like a legitimate thing, because ultimately what we can say is the right, like tyranny, top down imposed decision making is easy to do. Right? It doesn't involve infighting because it's an in-group who is saying like we are the ones. So I think the reason that this happens in leftism is because when you're opening up the discussion to saying we respect all people and their opinions, you're also opening the door to people disagreeing with each other. And I think the fact that the show not only recognizes that, but spends multiple seasons developing like, what does that look like? When is it maybe justified? When is it not justified? Don't do it, Jake.
I was gonna say that guy's on The Mandalorian, actually.
Okay.
I think to your point though, I think it's like, and the grand meta narrative of Star Wars is that like, then the rebellion's gonna fail again.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
is
Right.
all in favor of this one thing. And like I say, I keep coming back to like, the First Order like accidentally became a really good ideological argument. Like the movies never filled that out, but like, yeah, these things are just going to keep recurring, and there will be processes against them. It's sort of a loop. There is no like solving the system.
Right. And I mean, in history, right, that's like the debate between, do you have the Cuba version where people say, oh, scary authoritarianism where dissent isn't allowed, which, has some legitimacy to it, but also you have the Chilean version where people are too nice and Allende gets removed from power. And so the two, there is never a resolution. You threw in the word dialectic early in the ep. And I think that's that is the power of it, right? It's to say like,
Sorry, that was Dianetic.
okay, sorry, yeah, that's right. And that was before the episode, and you had these two little handles.
Hey, Saw Gerrera is in that movie.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's true.
Yeah, but the sense of like history will not answer the question for you, right? This is like something that you have to kind of just learn to accept and do your best with in the future.
Well, on that note,
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's a great place to wrap up.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here. Everybody listening, be sure to rate and review.
Well, where can people follow them?
Oh, yeah. Shit. You guys, plug your podcasts, please.
So Ian lives in Oaxaca, Mexico. He's at the corner of...
Be careful. Be careful here. You're on thin ice on this
I've
one.
doxed him on our podcast. So our show is called Casty For Me. Podcasty is 2 words. We are on all the different websites where stuff would be at Podcasty For Me. We're on all your favorite podcatchers. You can also go to podcastyforme.com. We also bought shootingyourselfinthehead.com, which redirects to our website.
But this is constructive. That's not a joke.
Yeah.
That's public service.
Exactly, because then maybe you'll be like, well, I should at least get to the end of this podcast before I shoot myself in the head. And joke's on you, the episodes are very long.
Is there a Wikipedia entry for shooting yourself in the head?
Oh, wow.
Yes. Well, no, actually, you know what? I found death when I clicked on suicide.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at the Wikipedia entry for George R. Binks, the comic strip about Jar Jar's dad.
Yeah.
So I happen to know that sort of yes, sort of no. But you can find us there. We talk about Stephen Soderbergh movies. We have a Patreon where we talk about stuff sort of adjacent to that. We did every Clint Eastwood movie. We did every Paul Schrader movie. And coming up next, we're doing Polanski. So,
oh boy,
we do it one and one for us, one for them.
Yeah, so Polanski's for us. And thanks so much for having us, guys.
Guys.
I did see an Officer and a Spy. I am one of the 5 people who saw it.
Yeah, I have to genuinely thank you because I do love this show, and this was my 3rd rewatch of the first season. And
Nice.
The fact that on the positive side, my girlfriend, this is one of the things that I've shown her that she's enjoyed the most, I think, of the media that I've insisted that she watch. We're both big fans of Diego Luna and his bodily presence in the universe. But
canonically 19-year-old Diego Luna.
That's right.
He's 28.
28.
That's right. Yeah. Which I think is maybe Stalin's exact age when he did the robbery. But
well, it's actually it's heavily debated whether Stalin did it or not.
That's right. I'm sure you'll get to it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll
Trotsky accused him of Stalin valor.
Okay, thanks for having us.
Back to your nice, genuine statement.
She said when she heard about this podcast, she's like, I can't believe you found a reason to watch the show again within 5 months of us having just watched the show. And it was great. I was very happy. So thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. This was so fun. You guys are a dream guest for us. I have now found a way to rewatch the show every single day for the next 3 years. So I know how you feel.
Well, you guys are welcome back anytime.
Yeah. Is there any character or arc or something in particular that you would love to come back for?
Well, I don't know what happens, but
you want when Goku shows up. I know. I put that down on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, when Goku and he eats the big egg or whatever he does. He tries to steal someone's tea.
Yeah,
I'll take my headphones off, Ian. You can.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for him. I think I would be happy to come back anytime, of course, but maybe in the dip of the darkest scenes in the apartment, I think is just like a really bleak time that I know some people have mixed feelings about, but I would be happy to come back. But really, anything would be a treat. So
yeah, we'll make that happen for sure.
In 5 years.
Are we out of the episode?
In 5 years.
It'll be 2 years. Just
are we still on the episode?
No, we're not yet. We got to sign out.
Okay.
Which is
we'll do our sign off.
Well, now you can follow us.
Yeah, now you can follow us at andorkspod on whatever your social media vice of choice is. Be sure to write us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can send us an email at andorkspod@gmail.com. And we will see you all next week for part 2 of The Eye. Later, dorks.
Bye, dorks.